Nobody spends like the U.S. government, especially when it comes to defense spending. And today we examine one line item, and only partially. Have you ever heard about those absurd Pentagon spending line items and it got your mind to thinking? Well, here's one for you. What if I told you that one of the most powerful weapons ever built is quietly loaded with precious metals? Not in Fort Knox quantities, but in places you'd never expect. So, of course, we're talking about the B-2 stealth bomber, a machine that costs over $2 billion per aircraft. And yes, it contains gold and a lot more silver than you'd probably think. So today, we're going to examine exactly how much gold and silver is inside a stealth bomber, where it is, why it's absolutely necessary, and what it says about the real value of these metals in the high-tech world. Because here's the punchline. Without gold and silver, this thing doesn't fly, doesn't hide, and doesn't fight. So what is the B-2? Here's some quick context. The B-2 Spirit is not just a bomber. It is a stealth platform designed to penetrate the most advanced air defenses on Earth. Radar evading shape, radar absorbing materials, advanced avionics, nuclear capabilities, precision strike systems, and only 21 were ever built. Each one costs roughly $2 to $2.2 billion when you factor in development. So when we ask how much gold is in the B-2, we're not just asking because it's decorative. We're asking because modern warfare literally depends on these metals. So let's start with gold. Gold is used primarily in electronics because it does not corrode, it is an excellent conductor, it performs reliably in extreme environments, and in advanced military aircraft like the B-2, the estimated gold content is somewhere between 2 to 5 pounds, or about 1 to 2.5 kilos. And before you even say, wait, that's it? Let's break it down. That gold is spread across avionics systems, flight control computers, navigation systems, communications arrays, satellite links, weapons guidance systems, and basically every system that must not fail. And here's the key insight. This isn't about bulk, it's about reliability. Gold is used where failure is not an option. And so here's where it gets interesting. Silver. So because silver is actually more heavily used than gold in many systems, we look at why. Silver is the most conductive metal on Earth. It's critical in high-performance electrical systems. It's used in switches, contacts, and circuitry. And estimated silver content in the B-2 is somewhere between 25 and 60 pounds. That's somewhere between 11 and 27 kilograms. And so 25 to 60 pounds. That's a meaningful amount. Silver shows up in electrical contacts, power distribution systems, radar systems, thermal management, and solder and alloys, high-frequency signal components, and in high-tech systems, silver isn't optional, it is optimal. You can't substitute it, but if you do substitute it, performance will drop. And in a stealth bomber, performance drop equals mission failure. So let's walk through the actual systems. The avionics core first has gold-plated connectors and silver-based conductive paths. Why? Because these systems operate under extreme vibration, temperature swings, electromagnetic interference, and there, cheap metals would fail, but gold does not. So radar and stealth systems. The B-2's stealth relies heavily on radar-absorbing materials, signal management, and electronic warfare systems. Silver plays a role in signal transmission, shielding, and high-frequency conductivity. And gold helps maintain clean, stable connections. And so when you're running a flying supercomputer, you are going to get heat. So now we examine thermal and power systems. Silver is used in thermal interfaces, conductive pathways, power distribution, because again, nothing moves electricity or heat like silver. So now let's look at weapon systems. Precision guided munitions rely on GPS, internet guidance chips, and sensor systems. Gold is used in microelectronics. Silver is used in signal transmission. So yes, even the missiles benefit from precious metals. So now we look at value versus cost. Let's talk dollars, and let's be generous. If there's 5 pounds of gold, and gold is trading at somewhere around $5,000 an ounce, well, that's a lot of money. If there's 50 pounds of silver, and silver is trading, let's say, somewhere around $75 to $80 an ounce, that's also a lot of money. But when you talk about the $2 billion cost of the aircraft, all that money becomes a rounding error, something like 0.1%. And so let that sink in. All the gold and all the silver combined barely registers on the cost sheet. But here's the twist. Remove that 0.01%, and the other 99.99% of the cost is for naught, because the machine won't work. And this is where things get interesting for you and me, because this is not really about bombers, it's about demand reality. Gold and silver are often framed as old money, barbarous relics, or shiny rocks, but in the real world, they are critical infrastructural materials used in military systems, satellite, AI hardware, energy systems, EVs, solar, and so many other applications. And unlike paper assets, these metals are consumed, especially silver. So when people ask, does silver really have industrial demand? You can say, well, it's literally in stealth bombers. And here's a fun perspective. Here's a fun thought experiment. If you melted down a B-2 bomber's precious metals, you'd get a couple of pounds of gold and a pretty decent silver stack, but not exactly Fort Knox. But that tiny amount enables a global power to project itself on a worldwide basis, which tells you something profound. Value isn't about quantity, it's about function. So the next time someone says gold and silver are useless relics, just remember, the most advanced military aircraft on Earth quietly disagrees. Because without gold and silver, the B-2 bomber doesn't communicate, doesn't navigate, doesn't strike, and it definitely doesn't stay invisible. And that's not theory. That is engineering reality. And now you know the rest of the story for how much gold and silver is in a B-2 bomber and why. Build that stack. iBankerU. Good day.